History is littered with revolutions that successfully overthrow absolute power, only to install something identical in its place. The rebel who tears down the dictator's throne almost always ends up sitting on it. The Arindam Sen Chronicles maps the anatomy of these power transfers, tracking how the psychological toll of fighting a corrupt system inevitably forces the Liberator to adopt its methods. Take a look at this archival photograph showing protesters demanding a resolution. Behind these visible crowds operated a shadow network called the Silent Doctrine. They didn't rely on military strikes. Instead, they manufactured the chaos, weaponizing ideology and localized unrest to manipulate entire nations from the inside. You cannot shoot an ideology. When you attack a system built entirely on manipulation, the system doesn't break. It simply studies your attack and adapts to survive. Arindam Sen understood this. Instead of engaging the Silent Doctrine with conventional warfare, he fed them a fabricated narrative about a mole within their own ranks. He infected their network with paranoia, forcing the organization to consume itself through internal purges. This quiet, ancient tomb mirrors Arindam's final maneuver. To ensure the network couldn't eventually capture him and crown him as its new leader, he erased his own name. He sacrificed his identity, fading into history to starve the system of a host. Arjun hits play on a recording his mother hid for 20 years. His father's voice describes a network that survived the purges by evolving into a global architecture that no single person could track. Driven to finish what his father started, Arjun sets out to permanently delete the network. But by aggressively hunting it down, he walks blindly into a trap meticulously designed for righteous liberators.
Hunting an enemy with no physical address and no clear face is profoundly isolating. Arjun's modern investigation strips away his normal life, leaving him completely detached from the society he believes he's protecting. This terminal display reveals the Silent Doctrine's evolution, Project Shunya. It's the global architecture directing localized chaos. Notice the interconnecting lines mapping its infrastructure. Shunya operates as a self-sustaining algorithm of leverage, dictating media, controlling financial flows, and manipulating borders without a physical army. Because Shunya is an operational philosophy rather than a military target, a physical assault is useless. You cannot destroy it by force. You can only interact with its rules. This dictates a brutal shift in methodology between father and son. Arindam stopped a war by sacrificing his own existence. Arjun decides that to pierce Shunya's defenses, he must systematically sacrifice others. Arjun reaches a point of no return. To pass an initiation test set by Shunya's anonymous operatives and gain access to the inner circle, he executes a human target in cold blood. He rationalizes the murder. He cuts off trusted allies like Miradatta, convinced that absolute destruction of the network requires absolute ruthlessness. He builds a wall around his own conscience. Shunya protects itself by forcing its attackers into a moral decay that eventually makes them indistinguishable from the system they are trying to kill. This circular architecture defines the public face of power, masking the shadow state that pulls the strings from the floorboards beneath it. Inside that shadow state, Arjun finally confronts the Void Architect. The architect lays out the reality. The system does not shatter under pressure. It absorbs the impact, waiting for a host strong enough to claim the center. By utilizing deception and violence to reach this room, Arjun has passed the ultimate interview. His desperate need for control proves he is the perfect candidate to take over Shunya. The system weaponizes righteous anger. It takes the Liberator's intense desire to fix a broken world and converts it into the exact qualification needed to oppress it. The climax arrives in a single gunshot. Arjun assassinates the architect. The master terminal is suddenly unprotected, and the entire global system sits primed for total deletion. But Arjun hesitates. Severing Shunya's ties wouldn't create freedom. It would trigger a catastrophic global power vacuum. Pulling his hand from the delete key, he types, "System control, initiate."
He installs himself as the new architect, convinced he can govern better than the tyrants he killed. This is the Liberator's curse. The person willing to cross every conceivable moral boundary to tear down a corrupt system is exactly the kind of person perfectly conditioned to rule it.